GM fired 15 employees last week and disciplined 5 others due to the handling of the faulty ignition switch recall. GM says it's not going to dismiss anybody else. Nobody's going to jail. Now, since early this year, GM has been surrounded here by scandal over why it took more than a decade to start recalling cars with those ignition switch problems that were causing them to stall drivers and struggle to control their vehicles as power steering and brake systems malfunctioned and airbags failed to deploy during crashes. I see these guys licking their lips on this one. GM is facing more than 80 lawsuits that have been consolidated. Time says GM's ultimate strategy is to have the cases dismissed, and toward that end, it's asked the judge, in this case Robert Gerber of the U.S. State's Bankruptcy Court in the Southern District of New York, to rule that the cases violate the provisions of the company's 2009 restructuring agreement that protects it from legal claims stemming from incidents before that date. We've gone down this road before, haven't we? Think about Exxon. You want to go not just with the Valdez case here, but how about in all the different messes we saw after the 2008 crash? And at the end of the day, people look, Doug, and they say, who goes to jail and who doesn't go to jail? And I'll be honest, I thought it was overly simplistic, the argument before. But the more this adds up, it's not just how much you got in your pocket that you can buy the best defense, but it's almost too big to fail, too big to go away. These are, some of these cases, criminal actions, not just a civil penalty that I don't know is too much of a dissuader to doing bad actions the second time if you even get caught.
Well, you know, when you try a civil case against a corporation, they'll spend their time saying, you know, we're a corporation, but we want to be treated just like a person. We have the same rights under the Constitution. And they go on and on about that. But as soon as there seems to be some criminal liability,
are people too,
oh,
right?
they're people. But as soon as there seems to be some criminal liability, it appears they're running from that. You know, if this was a person that went around mowing down people or fixing their car in such a way that they didn't work properly and it was, you know, negligent or it was manslaughter or something, they would be in jail in a second. It's complete hypocrisy. That's exactly what it is.
You guys agree with him?
Absolutely. I mean, think about the guy who was driving the Walmart truck, and he's charged with homicide now in New Jersey in the Tracy Morgan accident, right? No one's charged with homicide in GM.
And he fell asleep.
And he fell asleep. But people here made a conscious decision. In their mind, your life's not worth 59 cents to change the ignition switch. It's not worth us making a real effort to let you know that you should only put one key in it at least until we can correct it. And what's the penalty? A lot of the people who were in charge at the time are gone. They have their parachute. No one's coming after them. You have someone who's now the CEO who expects us to believe some form of plausible deniability that although she was able to rise to be the CEO of GM, she had no idea what the company was doing in the years before she took that position. She's there presiding over the Indy 500, but no one's going to get charged. So what you really are saying is that it will be the small people who don't have the resources to defend themselves. And if you commit the largest crimes, and again, I'm not conceding it's only 13 people. I mean, that's what GM is willing to acknowledge. But the lawsuits out there suggest it's many more than 13 who died, and count how many others were injured. And then there are people who just don't make the connection. So, you know, you just have an unsolved fatality. It's unacceptable.
Bill, I'll never forget, after the market crash, and we're in, I'd say, mid-09, people said, I bet you nobody's going to jail. And I said, you're nuts, okay? The public's got pitchforks and stakes here going, right? They want somebody's hide here for what they did, and what they did with these derivatives. There was conscious, you know, financial weapons of mass destruction. They were right, and I was wrong. Give a why to it. I know each case is different, but why is it so hard when the institutions are so big that there's more than just a fine attached?
Well, from a prosecutor's point of view, prosecutors prosecute cases for a number of reasons, but the primary reason is to see somebody get punished, okay? And corporations can't be sent to jail. Corporation is an entity, but it can't be sent to jail. So all you can do with a corporation is take a guilty plea and get a fine, but you can't send anybody to prison.
But when you have
for
individuals with fingerprints of that corporation.
I basically don't agree with the premise that people from big corporations never get prosecuted for criminal acts. I think the government has no interest in not prosecuting people. For example, if the government can make a criminal case, against the CEO of General Motors, they would do it in a heartbeat, because think of the message it sends.
Couldn't they do it against any of these bank officials? I mean, you had clear criminal conduct in the crisis.
Yeah.
Clear criminal conduct by individuals, and they didn't touch it.
And clear
Understood,
conduct
but-
right now in terms of money laundering with these, drug cartels.
Yeah, but the fact is that there are plenty of people who are being prosecuted from Wall Street companies, brokerage houses, who basically were running schemes, and they wound up getting prosecuted. So the government, I don't, to my knowledge, I cannot say with any degree of confidence or certainty that I could stand behind the proposition that prosecutors have no interest whatsoever in investigating
they'll
crimes
go after the
committed.
boiler rooms, but when you talk about some of the major commercial banks here or investment houses, people can fairly look at it and say, time out. After all the damage that was done, at the end of the day, there's been big fines that have been paid by certain institutions, but who at the end has been led away in handcuffs?
I can't give you names and specifics, but I can tell you that in my recent memory, I know that the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York has prosecuted a number of people from banks and from big brokerage houses, Goldman Sachs, those types of companies. They haven't been held not accountable. So I think the government does it. I think what we're losing sight of here is that, when you have people within a large corporation committing crimes, there's a circle of wagons atmosphere within the corporation also. And sometimes the evidence isn't quite as obvious as it is in a case involving, somebody that's not involved in a corporate structure.
They found in the Chase settlement criminal liability, and they attached it to individuals. They gave Chase a fine, they let the guy go. The thing with GM that bothers me so much is they went bankrupt in the crisis. They got bailed out by the little people who do get prosecuted, and it is that bankruptcy that actually may shield them from liability for all acts that they decided to commit before the bankruptcy. So we bailed them out, they're making a ton of money, and because we bailed them out in bankruptcy, they actually have a viable motion to dismiss, do they not?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We'll be right back.